All right, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news here on the Urban Conservative. We're about to take a look live at the results of the North Carolina 2024 primary runoffs. All right, y'all, you're back. It's Tuesday, May the 14th, primary runoff day here in North Carolina. There are two offices up in the runoff. That would be the office of Lieutenant Governor and the two candidates vying for that seat, Hal Weatherman to your left, Jim O'Neill to the right. And the other office up for grabs this Tuesday evening is the office of the state auditor. You see Dave Boliek and Jack Clark on your right, Dave Boliek to your left. All are vying for the Republican nomination to become the candidate to go on to the general election. We're going to take a look live at the results from the North Carolina State Board of Elections here. It looks like the only thing in right now is early voting. With that said, Hal Weatherman has a commanding lead early in the race. A little closer things between Jack Clark and Dave Boliek. Again, this appears just to be early voting in one out of 2,659 precincts. There is not expected to be a huge turnout for these primary runoff elections, partly because a lot of people don't know that these are, there's not a lot of TV commercials. There's not a lot of mail that goes out in a primary runoff. It's usually the most dedicated party members. That's what I'm chalking up the low turnout to anyway. But as it stands right now, these are the results. Currently, it appears to be only early voting is in the 2024 primary for North Carolina's lieutenant governor Republican nomination and state auditor. Again, the only two races that were undecided. As a matter of fact, what we'll do, since we're looking at this page, is we'll go back and we'll take a look, just kind of identify why there's a need for a runoff here. So when you go look at the March 5th primary, and we're taking a look at the results of the March 5th primary here, what you're going to see is that none of the candidates in the Republican race, so you'll see Jack Clark ended up with 23.24%. Dave Boliek ended up with 22.10%. No one hitting the 30% win mark. Now, this race, a lot closer percentage point wise. And then let's take a look. You also had Lieutenant Governor down here. Now, where's the Lieutenant Governor? The Lieutenant Governor, as you can see, was a bigger split. 11 candidates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 11 candidates running for Lieutenant Governor, Hal Weatherman and Jim O'Neill. The interesting thing about this race, especially the Lieutenant Governor's race, is when you look at the color key for the amount of wins, county wins that Hal Weatherman had over Jim O'Neill. That makes it an interesting race. You see some of the areas that Jim O'Neill was able to win. Looks like his home county as well was one of those. It's going to be a matter of turnout. What I also thought was interesting was how well Deanna Ballard did, State Senator Ballard did, looking at the counties that she won. But that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a runoff at this point, because none of the candidates received 30%, the statutory number percentage required in order to win your party's nomination. So again, as it stands right now, you've got early voting is what appears to be in right now. Now, again, I'm not expecting 20% turnout, 30% turnout. I would be shocked if there was that high a turnout. And remember, this is only Republicans. So I think the litmus test that we can kind of take from this is going to be the idea of how energized is the base of the Republican Party, because that is who, ladies and gentlemen, just my humble opinion, who is going to show up and vote is those who know. Shouts out to Kathy. Kathy is letting us know that she was voter number 50 at 6 p.m. So that gives you an idea. Kathy, give us so we can give you a shout out. Let us know where you're watching or listening from. But the results as it stands right now appear to be only early voting. So we're going to stay on it. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Breaking news here on the Urban Conservative. We are covering the North Carolina 2024 primary runoff results live here on the Urban Conservative. Don't go nowhere. Country illegally cast a ballot, it takes the power of your vote away. Visit onlycitizens.vote to find out how you can contact your legislature and get them to pass a citizens-only voting amendment. Again, visit onlycitizens.vote and defend your right to vote.
NASCAR. Do you like a Tribe Called Quest? Well, you gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Do you like manwich and nachos? Well, then you'd love the Urban Conservative.
Do you like guns? Do you like butter? Well, you're gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Yo, what's good, son? You like pit bulls, say? You like solving Sudoku puzzles? Then you gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Hey, buddy, if your car making a sound like this, you might want to get you some power steering fluid and check out the Urban Conservative podcast.
Are you repulsed by the idea of drag queen story time at your local library, but enjoy Carol Baskin TikTok memes? Then you would enjoy the Urban Conservative.
Do you want to slap your boss and then go home and make yourself some golden brown pancakes covered in butter and freshly made warm boysenberry syrup? Then you'll love the Urban Conservative.
If you're a little over Cardi B and you're repulsed by the thought of hog maw, check out the Urban Conservative. You ready? If you think the earth is flat and always on that weird side of YouTube, check out the Urban Conservative. They'll set you straight.
If you're in a chasing dopey and you love South Fish and Festival, check out the Urban Conservative.
All right, you're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Tuesday night. You're rocking here on the Urban Conservative. Breaking news. We are tracking the results of the North Carolina 2024 Republican primary runoff for lieutenant governor and for state auditor. Looks like a little bit more of the votes are starting to come in. And as you can see, Hal Weatherman has a commanding lead early, 75% of the vote going his way in early voting. The state auditor's race, a little bit closer. Jack Clark ahead right now by about 422 votes, something like that. So if you're on the listening end of things, we'll keep you updated as things progress. But these are the results as it stands right now. Interesting thing about this lieutenant governor's race, as somebody who's been involved in politics, I've kind of traveled across the state, as some of you may know. I had an opportunity to see Hal Weatherman in a lot of places. And I think that may be this result we're seeing in especially a primary with this low turnout, an indicator that driving that grassroots out, like Hal did, getting out there on the road. I mean, it's still early yet, but that is a very commanding lead for Hal to have early on. So a testament, I think, to his work ethic and getting out there. Like I said, the state auditor's race, a little bit closer, a little bit edgier. I think that you're going to see that in the state auditor's race, especially in a race where we're talking about a state auditor in Bethwood who left under some less than desirable circumstances, we'll call it. But the replacement for Bethwood has really not done what I think would be a good continuance of the legacy that Beth Wood had there. And all things considered, I had an opportunity to interview Beth Wood. I've talked to her on several occasions, and she did some really good work in relation to the audit that was conducted on the city of Rocky Mount and some other things. So a very, very interesting thing. Now, the guy on your right, who is running for lieutenant governor. And let me pull that back up. That's Jim O'Neill there, the guy on your right, just so you know a little bit about Jim O'Neill. Jim O'Neill's a Forsyth County District Attorney. He is vying for the Republican nomination again. Mark Robinson, who is the GOP nominee for governor, has also weighed in on this lieutenant governor's race and came out to endorse Hal Weatherman. So that is a very interesting dynamic there. We're going to give this a refresh, see if anything's changed. We got a little bit more of a vote in. And if this trend continues, I think what we're going to see is basically a very tight state auditor's race. But I don't think we're going to see a very tight lieutenant governor's race at this point. I mean, again, 19 of the 2,659 counties reporting, and Hal Weatherman has a very commanding lead, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen. So, again, the idea here, Hal Weatherman mentioned, has gone to all 100 counties multiple times. I think that has had some impact on, especially when you look at a race like this, where it's a primary runoff. And it's really like we said before the break, the diehard, very politically aware and engaged voter coming out that wants to vote for a lieutenant governor's primary runoff, nonetheless. One thing is interesting, though. Truth be told, I did get a piece of Jim O'Neill mail in the mail. It was a very well done mailer, if I might say so myself. But it was a good mailer. Shouts out to Kathy in Nash County's in the building. Nash County's out there. Matter of fact, we have the ability to go look by county. Let's just go take a look at Nash County real quick and see what Nash County is doing in this primary real fast. Let's go ahead and display those results. All right. Yeah, that looks like early voting is the only thing that's in Nash County right now, but 10-1 going to Hal Weatherman. Dave Boliek ahead there in Nash County. That's a very interesting dynamic. So we're going to keep our eyes on this right here, ladies and gentlemen. We're watching the results of the 2024 runoff live here on the Urban Conservative. Y'all don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. This season of the Urban Conservative Podcast is brought to you by Newton for Senate, working to improve education, reduce taxes, and keep North Carolina #1 for business. Find out more at newtonforsenate.com. This episode of the Urban Conservative has also been sponsored by Case Technology Consulting. Help your business get value out of its data and become more efficient and streamlined. Case Technology Consulting. Check out the link in the description. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're back rocking here on the Urban Conservative. It's Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, aka the day of the runoff. You've got Hal Weatherman and Jim O'Neill running for North Carolina Lieutenant Governor. You've got State Auditor up on the Republican side, Dave Boliek versus Jack Clark. That is indeed the runoff that we are looking at on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. We gave Miss Kathy a shout out and took a look at what was going on in Nash County. It looks like just early voting is in. Now I'm going to be nosy and hold some of my Mecklenburg friends to the fire. Let's see what we got going on in Mecklenburg County real quick in this runoff. Yeah, it is a little closer in Mecklenburg with Hal Weatherman still ahead, still about 19 percentage points ahead. So not as close as one would look, but Jack Clark ahead in the auditor's race against Dave Boliek there in Mecklenburg County. Very interesting. So we're going to go back to the statewide picture real fast and see. Hold on. There's no federal. So let's go Council of State. Oh, there was federal. Even though, let's go back and take a look. Now y'all got me interested. So we're going to go take a look at this federal race. And if you're not aware what happened here in North Carolina up in the 13th district, Brad Knott got Trump's endorsement. Kelly Daughtry stepped down out of the race last week. And this is still the result. Over 2,000 people still decided to show up and cast their vote for Brad Knott. So that goes to show there's some grassroots going on out there in the 13th district. That's a big deal. But we're going to go back to this state auditor's race and the state lieutenant governor's race. It looks like we're starting to get some precincts in, a little bit more than early voting. And like I said, if this trend continues, we're likely to see the auditor's race stay close. That's within 3 points, about 700 votes. And the lieutenant governor's race is about a 9,000 vote gap as it stands right now. Now, that's with 39.39%, not even, a full county reported yet. So we'll see. It looks like these may be a mixture of same day and early voting numbers with counties that had low turnout. So we're going to keep our eye here on the state auditor and lieutenant governor's race. But in the meantime, while we do that, the question is, did you all hear about Donald Trump having Lawrence Taylor come out and speak at his rally in New Jersey? Now, the reason I bring that up is because this lieutenant governor's race, right? This lieutenant governor's race is going to be in concert with probably one of the biggest governor's races in North Carolina. The Council of State will probably get a boost. I will dare say the state auditor's position has been one that has for a long time been looked at as they want somebody that is nonpartisan. So Lawrence Taylor coming out right now signals something very interesting going on in the country, especially when it revolves around Republicans, the minority vote. If you haven't heard, take a listen to this.
I want to say I grew up a Democrat, and I've always been a Democrat until I met this man right here. I'll tell you what. He will not have to worry about nobody in my family ever vote for a Democrat again. Okay.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what you're up against in 2024. If you're a Democrat, if you're Joe Biden, if you're a Democrat running for governor in North Carolina, you have an undercurrent of people that are tired of the stuff that Democrats have been shoving down their throats. So that's what you're up against. And that's why these offices, these council of state seats are just so vitally important. It looks like we're starting to get some precinct numbers in. It is still a 75%, 75-25 race, Hal Weatherman's way versus Jim O'Neill for lieutenant governor. Jack Clark and Dave Boliek still neck and neck there, about a 700 vote difference. So that is going to be interesting to see how that pans out. One of the things I think people do have to take in mind is that once these runoffs are over, you'll kind of have your slate in North Carolina. You'll have Mark Robinson. You'll have your lieutenant governor, your entire Republican slate of people. Now, I think that there can be something said about the fact that Republicans have not traditionally, when we go back and we're sitting here on the results page, Republicans have split the state. And it's been interesting to see because since I've been here, we haven't had North Carolina vote for a Republican governor and Republican president, at least since I've been here. It didn't happen with McCrory. It didn't happen with Trump. Trump won and Cooper won. So it's this very interesting split vote in North Carolina. Some people talk about how North Carolina's purple. Some people say it's not really a purple state. It's more of a red state. When you look at the fact that you simply have more unaffiliated voters than Democrats or Republicans, with Republicans in the third and growing, what you have to take into consideration is that the more Democrat votes go Republican, the more Democrats that are unenthused by what they're seeing out of the Biden administration, that are not happy with what they're seeing from a local level when it comes to economic development, when it comes to safety and security, if we're talking about Charlotte, if we're talking about Raleigh, if we're talking about Durham for that matter. Uh, you can't be happy with what you're seeing out of the Democrats. And right now, when people like Lawrence Taylor, people like Sexy Red the rapper, all of these folks are coming out and they're looking at politics, whether you love it or hate it. We got to have candidates that are going to be able to go up here as conservatives, as Republicans, as people who are of the disposition that our country's in a grave way. Now, let's be real. Let's just be honest. Let's be 1,000%. There's no one that could make the suggestion that America's doing just fine right now. You cannot make that. There's just, you're living on a different planet. Or you want to be oblivious. You have to want to be oblivious to think that our country's in a good way right now. Uh, I dare say that we have a crisis at the southern border. We have the number one cause of death from for black men 18 to 35 is homicide. What's going on in our country now? We're gonna refresh these results, see what we got going on here. Yeah, we're still holding in at the same. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you're checking out the primary runoff results for the North Carolina 2024 Republican primary. Seeking the Republican nomination for lieutenant governor are Hal Weatherman and Jim O'Neill, that you see on your screen. Hal Weatherman on the left, Jim O'Neill on the right. And then we have Dave Boliek and Jack Clark seeking the Republican nomination for state auditor. Now, what I like to do, right, is when you have two people running for office, let's just, while we wait for some of these results to come in, let's just break this down. We're going to go to Hal Weatherman's website, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to just do it in real time. So what you get to find out by going to a candidate's website is you get the run-of-the-mill stuff, but it doesn't take long. My point in bringing this up is this isn't a lot of information for somebody to have to ingest in order to find out about the person that is seeking to be the number air finger quote 2 elected official in the state of North Carolina. So Hal's a husband, father of 3, candidate seeking Republican nomination for lieutenant governor, native of North Carolina, undergrad from Wake Forest, master's degree from Wheaton, founder and president of the Electoral Education Foundation, a 501c3 dedicated to advancing election integrity efforts in North Carolina. He served as the chief of staff to former North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Dan Forrest, former U.S. Representative Sue Myrick. He's a published author, advised conservative candidates and campaigns over the last 3 decades, and he's a very open about his Christian faith, his love for his family, and his call to serve others. In the Why Am I Running section, Hal says he's tired of money-driven campaigns and candidates who only appeal to the fears and anxieties rather than their hopes and aspirations. He wants to run a campaign that paints an optimistic vision for the state and lifts up the people of North Carolina, principled, limited government, conservative, fiscal, and social. So that tells you right there, when you hear a candidate give you that kind of stuff, they telling you right off the bat, when you hear somebody say I'm a fiscal and social conservative, that ought to tell you. So shouts out, we got some folks out. Tim Miller, he got in a vote for Weatherman and Boliek. Shouts out to Tim Miller out there. Big up to you. But yeah, there's people across North Carolina. I did see a few stickers coming up. But Hal Weatherman, back to this real quick, has a mission statement. And the point of me going over this is because we're going to do the same thing for Jim O'Neill, is by telling you that it doesn't take much to find out who's running for office. These guys don't have entire booklets of information. So his primary goal in seeking lieutenant governor is to use the authority of the office to fundamentally remove the stigma society has placed on working in the trades. Now, the interesting thing about the North Carolina Lieutenant Governor's office, we're going to sidestep that for a second. But the interesting thing is there's no real, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on where you stand on this, the Lieutenant Governor's office, the Lieutenant Governor serves as the head of the North Carolina Senate. He basically oversees the Senate, and the Senate pro tem, who is Senator Phil Berger now, is kind of the guy in charge. And then you have the Senate majority leader in like third. But that's the lieutenant governor's primary job, is to preside over the Senate. He sits on the state board of education and other important boards and has a vote on those boards. I think the other thing that, and I think Mark Robinson did this masterfully, is to use the lieutenant governor's office as a bully pulpit as the number 2 Republican elected official in the state. Elected official, I shouldn't say Republican. But the problem is, at this point, you have a Hunt, a very powerful Democrat who's already secured the endorsement of multiple groups, has the name recognition of a former governor. This is not a nobody. Rachel Hunt is not a nobody lieutenant governor candidate. Now, one of the problems that Rachel Hunt has is that she has to wear, right? He has to wear, oh my God, at least, at a minimum, what we're going to want to see out of our lieutenant governor candidate is somebody that is going to hold Rachel Hunt to what the Democrat Party actually believes in. She's got to wear that whole thing. And at a time like now, at where our country's at, I just saw reports of how, more and more immigrants are being pushed into Black and brown communities across the country. You have the talks about non-citizens voting. You look in certain places, you already have non-citizens voting. You look at the calls for more election integrity. Where whatever your position is on the 2020 election, stolen or not, the 2016, because we have Democrats saying the same thing. A lot of Republicans said Trump wasn't a legitimate president, blah, blah, blah. They went on for 2 years about Russia. We all know it. We all know. But the fact of the matter is the Democrat Party is so far left at this point. And the decisions they've made, the things that they've advocated for, haven't benefited the communities that they, air finger quote, care about. Now, we're going to give this a refresh, take a look at where we are on the results. And as we see, it's still about a 75-25 clip with only 3% of the votes, 22,000 votes cast statewide so far in the 2024 Republican nomination for lieutenant governor and for state auditor. Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking, getting the results live here on The Urban Conservative. Give us a like, share, follow, subscribe. I'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Y'all don't go nowhere.
Doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.
Country illegally cast a ballot, it takes the power of your vote away. Visit onlycitizens.vote to find out how you can contact your legislature and get them to pass a citizens-only voting amendment. Again, visit onlycitizens.vote and defend your right to vote. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out on a Tuesday night. We are checking out the results of the 2024 Republican primary runoff election here in the great state of North Carolina. You've got Hal Weatherman and Jim O'Neill squaring off for Lieutenant Governor, Jack Clark, David Boliek running for North Carolina State Auditor. As you can see, the results going, Hal Weatherman with a commanding lead very early. Another 2,000 votes drop, and still a 75-25, and that lead's just increased slightly. Dave Boliek has taken the lead in the lieutenant governor's race. Lieutenant Governor in the state auditor's race. So Dave Boliek jumping out ahead of Jack Clark in the auditor's race. Very, very interesting race there. We actually had him on the show. Not Jack Clark, my bad. We had Dave Boliek on the show. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one. There we go. All right, there we go. Bang. We got Dave's website up on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. So that is one of the candidates running for North Carolina State Auditor, Dave Boliek. I just go down here, read more. All right, let's give it a rock. Let's hit it.
48, 49, 7, 8, 9, 55, 56.
Dave runs a tight ship.
7, 8, 9. Honey?
I made breakfast.
55, 56, $57.44.
Dad makes us keep track of every penny.
We've talked about wasteful spending.
Nothing gets by Dave. Nothing.
48, 49, 50. Honey?
You need Dave and Raleigh auditing state spending.
Boys!
But we really need Dave and Raleigh auditing state spending.
Boys!
Conservative, Republican, Dave BOLIEK for State Auditor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, okay, dope commercial. Can't hate on the commercial. Very well done. Very well executed commercial on Dave BOLIEK. But Dave, as a former prosecutor, expertise to find and root out corruption, chairman of the UNC Board of Trustees. He created the university's first audit committee, balanced the budget, eliminated the university's operating deficit for the first time in years. He led the fight at UNC to eliminate woke diversity and equity policies and create a new school of civic life and leadership to bring ideological balance to the notoriously liberal campus. Dave is a committed Christian who serves as an elder in his church, Eagle Scout, former youth sports coach. His wife of 30 years, Hayden, have 4 children. All right, there you go. So that's a little bit about Dave BOLIEK, who is one of the candidates running for state auditor. And we're going to also... Oh, it's interesting because every time I put in Jack Clark, the baseball player comes up. I don't even know who Jack Clark... I was never a big baseball fan. All right, but we're going to go to Jack Clark. Bow. Now we got Jack Clark up.
Jack Clark is running to be North Carolina's next state auditor. This is an important race, so we took some time to ask what makes him tick. Let's see what Jack had to say.
Jack, thanks for the opportunity to come and sit and share a little bit of information with the voters. Probably one of the biggest questions that I hear is, what exactly is a state auditor?
The state auditor's team goes into anywhere that receives state funding, be it boards, agencies, or organizations, and make sure that that money's being used the way it's supposed to by, as is in the name, auditing them.
So how exactly would you do that?
It's really just asking a bunch of questions, kind of like a financial Columbo, and there's always just one more thing.
What else goes into auditing?
Well, I could sit here and bore you with accounting standards and auditing theory, but I'm not going to do that. You don't need to be John Nash to audit. You do need some training, which I have, but we have spreadsheets to do the math. What you really need is integrity, because without integrity, no one trusts your results. And if no one trusts your results, your work is completely worthless.
Who are you going to audit first, Jack?
That is a question for January 2025. I found in my experience auditing that when you announce too far in advance, they don't clean their act up. They just figure out how they're going to respond to you to try to block you at every turn. It really turns you into more of a combatant rather than a partner, and that's just not the best way to audit. So I'm not going to announce ahead of time who I'm going to audit, but you'll find out. Anywhere that hasn't been audited in a while, that's very important, that gets a lot of state funds, that's high risk, those are the type of questions I'm going to be asking to figure out who I'm going to audit when the time comes.
So Jack, why do you think you could do a better job than your opponents?
Well, I have a master's in accounting, a CPA, and years of experience as an auditor, and I'm the only candidate to have any of those 3 things. You know, they have great experience in things like business or law or political activism, but saying those things help you run the audit department is like saying being a great chef helps you farm.
Wait a second. So you're saying there's not a requirement to...
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jack Clark's ad for state auditor. I'm so keen in on the lieutenant governor's race. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're back checking out the results North Carolina Lieutenant Governor's race between Hal Weatherman and Jim O'Neill. Hal Weatherman still out with a commanding 75% of the vote. Dave Boliek has edged ahead of Jack Clark. He's ahead by a little less than 1,000 votes. Yeah, a couple of hundred votes. It's still within 1 percentage point. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We're watching the results of the 2024 runoff for the North Carolina Republican primary right here on the Urban Conservative.
last call. Do you like a Tribe Called Quest? Well, you gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Do you like manwich and nachos? Well, then you'd love the Urban Conservative.
Do you like guns? Do you like butter? Well, you're gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Yo, what's good, son? You like pit bulls, say? You like solving Sudoku puzzles? Then you gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Hey, buddy, if your car making a sound like this, you might want to get you some power steering fluid and check out the Urban Conservative podcast.
Are you repulsed by the idea of drag queen story time at your local library, but enjoy Carol Baskin TikTok memes? Then you would enjoy the Urban Conservative.
Do you want to slap your boss and then go home and make yourself some golden brown pancakes covered in butter and freshly made warm boysenberry syrup? Then you'll love the Urban Conservative.
If you're a little over Cardi B, and you're repulsed by the thought of Hogmaw, check out the Urban Conservative. You ready? If you think the earth is flat and always on that weird side of YouTube, check out the Urban Conservative. They'll set you straight.
If you're in a chasing dopey and you love salad fish and festival, check out the Urban Conservative. Chuck.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a Monday night. A Monday night. It's a Tuesday night. Yeah, it's a Tuesday night runoff for the North Carolina Lieutenant Governor and State Auditor's race. AP already calling it, multiple outlets already calling the lieutenant governor's race in favor of Hal Weatherman. The real race is for state auditor at this point. It looks like Dave BOLIEK is keeping up a trend of about a 3 percentage point lead. It looks like the State Board of Election has about 25% of the votes, precincts reported that have votes in them. So still a ways to go. You see, it's only 1% turnout statewide so far of all of the ballots that could be cast, 4,800,000. Now, some of that has to do with the limited number of people that could actually vote. But a big part of that, I think, has to do with when you look at the number of Democrats and Republicans specifically. Not a lot of people know about the primary runoff. It's just not that popular. However, if there was a time for your vote to count the most, the absolute most, it's in a race like this where you as a Republican have two candidates vying to be your nominee against an already established Democrat. In the case of Al Weatherman, he is going to be going up against Rachel Hunt. And in the case of the state auditor's race, they're going to be going against the Cooper appointed nominee in that particular position. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at the live results. The real one we're keeping our eye on is the state auditor's race. So keep your eyes on it. We'll be here as it unfolds live. We're looking at live results from the State Board of Elections on scroll, ladies and gentlemen. You're rocking here on the Urban Conservative. We appreciate y'all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out. It's a Tuesday night. We're here on the Urban Conservative Live. We're taking a look. The AP and many other outlets have called the lieutenant governor's race for Hal Weatherman. The real race we're looking at right now is the North Carolina State Auditor's race. As you can see, Dave Boliek holding about a 3 percentage point lead over Jack Clark with about 28%. So we're coming up on close to 30% of the total vote counted. The thing that I would point your eyes to is the bottom left of the screen where it says ballot cast, 1.14%. So roughly 55,000 voters statewide. That's about how many Republicans there are in some counties. I'll give Cabarrus County has about 50,000 Republicans in it. So the turnout not massive for a primary runoff. However, I think that when we look at the importance of the race going in, Hal Weatherman taking on Rachel Hunt, I think is a great, great race for Republicans. And if we look at the condition of the country, we're looking at the positions that Rachel Hunt is going to have to defend as a representative of the Democrat Party. She's going to have a tough time defending defund the police. She's going to have a tough time defunding reducing Second Amendment rights. It's going to be a tough race for her. And I think Hal's got the right message. I think the other thing is to look at the office of the lieutenant governor. Who do you think is going to be more primed to be able to make use of that position, given that Republicans are likely to have advantages going into the state legislature and congressional races here in the country. So that's going to be a very interesting race. Now you're looking at Mark Robinson and Hal Weatherman as the Republican gubernatorial and lieutenant governor candidate slate for 2024. Obviously, Mark Robinson coming out to endorse Hal Weatherman is a big deal. But as you can see, the race between Dave Boliek and Jack Clark still pretty close. We're going to keep our eye on it. Like I said, about 28, 29% coming upon of the vote counted. So you're rocking here on the Urban Conservative. Don't go nowhere. We'll be rocking here until the results are done. Give us a like, share, follow, subscribe. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after this commercial break here on the Urban Conservative Podcast. Don't go nowhere, y'all.
Doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.
Country illegally cast a ballot, it takes the power of your vote away. Visit onlycitizens.vote to find out how you can contact your legislature and get them to pass a citizens-only voting amendment. Again, visit onlycitizens.vote and defend your right to vote. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're back rocking here on the Urban Conservative. We're looking at state auditor runoff election 2024, Republican runoff in the primary. Dave Boliek and Jack Clark out and about over the last week or so, making their pitch to Republican voters at conventions and Lincoln Reagan dinners, and those guys have been ripping the road up. But as it stands right now, we're going to take a look back at these results here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the race already called for Hal Weatherman. I think Jim O'Neill should have given Hal Weatherman a call by now. But as we look at the auditor's race, Dave Boliek now again holding on to about a 3 percentage point lead with 30+% of the vote already cast. Again, Dave Boliek and Jack Clark running for state auditor have been across the state. I know they've been in a county near you if you're in North Carolina, and that's how the game goes. You got to go see the dedicated, diehard Republicans are primarily the ones that are going to vote in these, second primary, if you will, runs. So we got our eyes on it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to let you rock out. We'll keep our eye on the results. We'll be right back here on the Urban Conservative, checking out the live results from the 2024 Republican primary runoff here in North Carolina.
doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.
And I'm running for New York State Assembly District 1. And I would like to invite you to my campaign kickoff on May 16th at 6 p.m. at the VFW Post 5350, located at 101 Riverhead Road in West Hampton Beach. Join me for cocktails and conversation about how we need to preserve home rule and bring back the rule of law to New York. I look forward to seeing you. Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out on a Tuesday night. We're looking at the auditor runoff for the great state of North Carolina. You've got Dave Boliek and Jack Clark slugging it out. It looks like the percentage points have gone up. It was 3, and it's a little more than that now. It's a 5-point lead, so we'll see what Dave Boliek, if that holds up with about 35% of the vote in. Hold on a sec. Let's do this while you have... all right, here you got Dave's website.
$48, $49, 7, 8, 9, $55, $56.
Dave runs a tight ship.
$7, $8, 9. Honey?
I made breakfast.
All right, here we go. So we got Dave Boliek's website, and then we also have the young man Jack Clark that is running as well. So those are the two candidates that are working for the vote here in North Carolina to become the Republican nominee for state auditor. Obviously, Beth Wood not running for re-election, and I don't know that the replacement for Beth Wood was a good pick. I think the direction that she's tried to take the office isn't quite, wouldn't be quite honoring the legacy that I think, and regardless of your opinion of what Beth Wood went through with the accident and the cause for resigning, she was doing a pretty smack bang up job as a state auditor. When we look at what happened in Rocky Mount, and kind of her position, we had the opportunity to interview her and talk to her about kind of what went into that audit. We had a real profound understanding of what the auditor's role is supposed to be. And that's one of those seats that I dare say people look at almost in a nonpartisan fashion. One of the interesting things in conversation that we've heard in regards to the auditor's race is, there was a conversation about Dave Boliek's voting record as a Democrat. I think one of the interesting things, and I mean, don't blame me for calling it out, but we celebrated Trisha Cotham for giving Republicans the supermajority we needed, the veto-proof majority we needed in the House to get some wonderful things done for the people of North Carolina. But then to have a kind of a kickback against Dave Boliek seems a little, it's just something that I think is a little bit of an interesting dynamic. We'll put it there. But ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at the live election results for the 2020 runoff for state auditor with about 34% of the vote casted. We're shooting this straight from the North Carolina State Board of Election. We'll be back in a few. Keep your eyes on the results. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out on a Tuesday night. We've got live election results in the 2024 North Carolina State Auditors primary runoff between Dave Boliek and Jack Clark. As you can see right now, about a 5 percentage point lead for Dave Boliek with about 41% of the vote, in just a little bit more than 41% of the vote. Still very low turnout, 1.52% total voter turnout at this point. Obviously, with this being a Republican only primary, if you were unaffiliated and you pulled a Republican primary ballot, you were able to vote. Or if you were a Republican that voted in the primary, you were able to vote. So, not a big voting pool, as it were. But this is expected to be a low turnout race. However, I think we're going to see the Republican candidate for state auditor is actually going to benefit from the strength of the Republican slate. So we're watching it live. About 40% of the votes in. We'll be right back here on the Urban Conservative. Don't go nowhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out on a Tuesday night with the Urban Conservative. I am Abdul Ali. I got to give a big shout out to my twin brother from the same mother, Raheem Architect Soto. We're live talking about North Carolina tonight. You're looking at live election results from the 2024 runoff. North Carolina State Lieutenant Governor and State Auditor Republican nomination primary runoff was today. As you're looking at the results for the State Auditor, the Lieutenant Governor's race already been called for Hal Weatherman. About 44% of the vote in right now. Again, low expected turnout for such a down ballot race, I'll call it, unfortunately. But so far, about 1.5% total voter turnout. Didn't know it would be that low, but expected low voter turnout. But as it stands right now, you've got Dave Boliek about 5 percentage points ahead of Jack Clark in the state auditor's race. That is the one that is still to be decided, with about 60% of the vote still out. And we'll be back and forth here on the Urban Conservative to chat it up when we get a little closer to crunch time. But give this video, if you're a North Carolinian, we are your spot for all things North Carolina politics. We'd appreciate it if you went to our website, tuconservative.com, showed us some love, grab a Hamilton plan, join the fastest growing urban conservative community there is. And on top of that, you help us keep doing what we do, which is spreading conservative values and principles to urban communities on the ground. And some of that involves running for office. As a matter of fact, I am indeed running for U.S. House District 12. I'm taking on Alma Adams here. We are working to make America better. That website, aliforcongress.com. Shameless plug, ladies and gentlemen. You have to shameless plug. But back to the election results. As you can see, about 44% of the vote in. I suspect that these votes will start dropping in heavier buckets, so we'll see those increments increasing by a larger margin. Dave Boliek enjoying about a 5 percentage point lead over Jack Clark. We're going to come back when it hits about 60%, see where we are. You're rocking out on a Tuesday night here on the Urban Conservative. Live election results, some beats in the background. That's just how we do it. Don't go nowhere. Live election results are coming right back here on the Urban Conservative. This season of the Urban Conservative Podcast is brought to you by Newton for Senate, working to improve education, reduce taxes, and keep North Carolina #1 for business. Find out more at newtonforsenate.com.
This episode of the Urban Conservative has also been sponsored by Case Technology Consulting. Help your business get value out of its data and become more efficient and streamlined. Case Technology Consulting. Check out the link in the description.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out on a Tuesday night here with the Urban Conservative. It is Tuesday evening, May the 14th, 2024. And what's happening right now is the runoff for North Carolina's lieutenant governor and North Carolina state auditor. Now, technically, the lieutenant governor's race has already been called for Hal Weatherman. The race still up for grabs is the state auditor. As you can see, with about 44% of the vote in, Dave Boliek with a 5-point lead over Jack Clark, 36,990 to 33,442 for Jack Clark. One of the things that I think is really cool, and if you've ever had the opportunity to do this, is you can look at your counties on this tool if you live in North Carolina, and I hope most states have a tool like this where you can actually go in and take a look at how this is going by county. So let's go ahead and do that. Matter of fact, we'll take a look at the big counties. Let's look at Wake, as a matter of fact, and we'll go for North Carolina State Auditor. So as it stands right now, you can take a look with votes in less than 1% of the vote of actual turnout, but Jack Clark ahead in Wake County. Interesting. Then you take a look down to Meck. Let's go give Mecklenburg a shot. That's what we got. So Hal Weatherman carrying Mecklenburg County and Jack Clark carrying Mecklenburg County. Interesting. But then when you go look at the statewide picture, there we go. We'll narrow it down to just auditor. All right. Now we're looking at about 46% of the votes, so almost half of the votes tallied. Dave Boliek holding on to about a 5-point lead, almost 40,000 votes to 35,000 votes. It looks like there's some Wake, there's some Mackinac. Some of the bigger counties have reported. It's very interesting to see how these counties break down and to see where the biggest boxes are, if you will. One of the cool things you can do with this tool is look and see how things are going. So Cherokee County, 16 out of 16. Jack Clark won Cherokee. So you look at where Jack Clark is winning. So you still, 54 out of 54 for Union. 38 out of 195 for Meck. So there's still some fighting in Meck to be done. All the Edgecombe precincts have reported Dave Boliek carried Edgecombe. Okay. Very interesting. Granville County went that way. All right. But this is one of the cool things about a tool is you can watch elections in real time. That's the beauty of the political processes. The information is right at your fingertips, ladies and gentlemen, and we help you get access to it right here at the Urban Conservative. As we said before, we're rocking out. We're going to come back when it hits a little higher percent. But if you're into this and you want to make sure that you know what's going on in your state, you're into the Republican politics of things, and you want to make sure you have a strong candidate that can compete. The primary is how you figure that out, especially as a good Republican. So we'll be right back here on the Urban Conservative. Y'all don't go nowhere. Results on the state auditor and the lieutenant governor's race right here live on the Urban Conservative. Country illegally cast a ballot. It takes the power of your vote away. Visit onlycitizens.vote to find out how you can contact your legislature and get them to pass a citizens-only voting amendment. Again, visit onlycitizens.vote and defend your right to vote. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking out on a Tuesday night here on the Urban Conservative. We are displaying for you live the 2024 Republican State Auditor's primary runoff election results. We got Dave Boliek and Jack Clark. Dave Boliek enjoying about a 5 percentage point lead with about 47% of the vote, 48, or almost half of the votes counted, less than 2% turnout, which is to be expected in such a, well, unpopular, I hate to say, race, but it's a one of those situations where I think you've got to be a diehard political person to even know that this is going on. So a 2% turnout doesn't shock me, unfortunately. But you're looking at the results live. The lieutenant governor's race called for Hal Weatherman. I could, if you want, put those up, but no need. Hal Weatherman's got that in the bag. So it'll be Hal Weatherman, Mark Robinson against Rachel Hunt, Josh Stein. The stage is set, if you will, for the 2024 gubernatorial race here in North Carolina. Now we got to just finish out the slate, see where we land on our Council of State. You've got Michelle Morrow, surprise candidate, beating Catherine Truitt. Obviously, the contention is that her experience as a homeschool educator and as someone who has utilized all aspects of the education system that are available to her as an American citizen is getting a little bit of a different treatment. And we're actually going to have her on the Urban Conservative. We're going to do an interview with her. So shouts out to Michelle Morrow and crew. I also got to give a big shout out to everybody that rocked out and came out to the new North Carolina Leadership Summit. The Carolina New Leadership Summit with Americans for Citizens Only Voting. Dope event. Big up Mark Robinson and the whole crew. Again, Mark Robinson coming out to endorse Hal Weatherman. I think that had a lot to do with what we saw in the results for the lieutenant governor's race. But right now we're talking about over half the vote in. Dave Boliek enjoying a 5 percentage point lead. Seems to be the trend over Jack Clark in the North Carolina 2024 Republican primary runoff for state auditor. Don't go nowhere, ladies and gentlemen. We got your results live right here on the Urban Conservative. We'll be right back.